Hi, I'm Julie Beeling, and I'm the writer of the book Beneath Sheep's Clothing, and also writer for the documentary and a producer for Beneath Sheep's Clothing. And welcome to our course on understanding the issues in our education systems here in America and all the ways that the issues intersect with Marxism or communism. So what we're going to have in this section is we're going to have, we have different people who are experts in these different areas that have recorded a short video. And then we have some of the major points that you can digest kind of in bite-sized pieces so you can really understand. The only way that we're going to be able to get the Marxism out of the schools is if we very clearly understand these issues and understand how they're a detriment to our children, and how this connects with Marxism really helps to understand this as well. So we're going to start with some definitions. So first of all, socialism, communism, what are those? So socialism and communism both reject capitalism and kind of reject private property. Socialism is kind of like the nicer, softer version, and communism is more the violent version of getting to the same point where it's the people who own the means of production. Really, it's usually the government that ends up owning it, and where there's equal distribution of resources. So it sounds nice. And this is the thing with communism, is that these things all sound really nice, like it's helping the guy that's lower down on the totem pole. But the results of communism, and you've got to watch Beneath Sheep's Clothing, the results of communism are enslavement, impoverishment, and death by the hundreds of millions. So we're not going to get into that anymore here, but let me give you a few more definitions. Marxism, how is that different from communism? Marxism is a playbook to get a society ready to fall to communism. Marxism harps on, it has this oppressed versus oppressor construct, where you identify an oppressed group of people or a group of people who can be made to feel oppressed, stoke their grievance, identify who their oppressor is, and get them to tear down that oppressive system, quote unquote. Communism marries a truth to a lie. There is some truth. There are oppressed people. There always have been in society, and I don't agree with that, and most of us also don't agree with that. We don't like racism. We don't like people being treated poorly for any reason. But communism actually condones murder. It condones lying, deception in the name of helping the oppressed. It's really just using the oppressed as a human shield for these people to go in and take over, and it's a power grab. And it's a maximal consolidation of power into the hands of a very few people, which is the opposite of the American system, which distributes power down into the hands of the people. Communism promises all these nice things. Oh, well, we give food and shelter, we're going to give you a job, we're going to give you health care, all these free things, but we're going to take your freedoms. Sorry, that's the price tag for the free stuff. And then you often still have food shortages to the point where millions of people are starving. Not a good system, very abusive system. That being said, capitalism has its own abuses. So they harp on the abuses of capitalism in order to enact these even more abusive systems of communism. So Marxism, again, that oppressed versus oppressor construct to divide the society, get people to violently tear down these systems of power. In that power vacuum, then the communists can come in and assume power. Now, Marxism kind of metastasizes and takes on different characteristics depending on the society that it's targeting. In Western society, and in America in particular, we have woke Marxism today, where the target is now the oppressed groups are people of color, people who are LGBTQ, and etc. And so seeing all of society and all of history and all of everything through that single lens of oppressed versus oppressor, that's what Marxism is. And woke Marxism, again, is looking at this through, people of color versus white people, whiteness, white supremacy, LGBTQ versus heteronormativity and cisnormativity, and etc. So now I want to define three more terms, and then we'll move on to these issues that are plaguing our children's education. And they are words you've probably heard of. They sound really nice. They sound like something that everyone should want, but here's what they really mean. We have diversity, equity, and inclusion. These are the new foundational principles that are at the absolute root of what they're doing to our children to get our kids to accept diversity, equity, and inclusion as their new foundational ideology. And why is that a bad thing? Diversity. Diversity, by the way that I think of diversity and that you probably think of it, is a wonderful thing. There's different kinds of people with different kinds of backgrounds and ideas, and everybody is valued. Sign me up for that. But with communists, they have their own dictionary of what those words mean. Diversity, for the communists, it means, and for the Marxists and the woke Marxists and people that might not even realize that they're falling into that camp, but for the leftist progressives and for the people that are designing all the curricula for our children, along with some activist teachers, diversity means you have to have this woke critical consciousness. It means you have to view everything through the single lens of this woke Marxism paradigm, oppressed versus oppressor, everything. And if you don't view the world through that lens, you are not diverse. Doesn't matter if you're Black, doesn't matter if you're whatever you might be. If you don't have this woke critical consciousness, your voice is not diverse. You will sit down and shut up. So inclusion for communists and for the woke Marxists is we will include you if you have this woke critical consciousness. If you do not, we will exclude you. You will be canceled. You will be asked to sit down and shut up and let the oppressed groups speak. You're an oppressor, sit down, shut up. Or maybe you're not an oppressor, you just don't have the woke critical consciousness, sit down and shut up. That's inclusion. And now we get to equity. Equity is explicitly communist. Equity means that that all of the goods of society, the money, the social status, the everything, have to be distributed equally to every member of society. And who's the person who decides how to distribute that? Of course, that's them. Their tiny elite at the top are the ones that will be trusted with that. So it's a massive consolidation of power in order to take in all of the capital of society in order to distribute out to individuals what their due amount is. So for instance, a person of color, maybe they get some reparations because historically they come from an oppressed group. If you come from a historically privileged group, then you're gonna cough up more of your goods to give out to other people. And if you don't feel like giving that over, well, in a communist society, you might be killed. That's one of the reasons why communist societies descend into this bloodbath. So diversity, equity, and inclusion being taught to our children as their new foundational ideology, and it's being taught in very sneaky ways, and we'll go through that in the next section here with understanding the issues. It is extremely dangerous to our freedoms. It's extremely dangerous. It's enslavement. It is selling our children into enslavement. And we need to understand this, and we need to protect our children from this at all costs. But before we can protect them, we need to understand how all of this works. So you're going to learn a lot more details on how woke Marxism, diversity, equity, and inclusion are being promoted, and not even just being promoted. Our children are being brainwashed. They're going to woke Marxist re-education centers when we send them to school. I'm really sorry to say that. And even the teachers that are well-meaning, the curricula that they're given to teach with is increasingly written by these woke Marxists. The teachers themselves go to these trainings to be indoctrinated. This video turned out a lot longer than I thought, but it's really important to understand these basic things before you move on to the next, to go through each of these issues. Thank you so much. I honor and respect you for taking the time to learn about these issues. And I hope this is very helpful to you. And of course, we have information on solutions and what we can do, but we've got to understand the problems first. Thanks so much.